They called him weak. Until he showed who he really was. He stood in the middle of the gym, arms trembling, breath shallow, heart pounding. Around him, laughter echoed off the concrete walls of the Christchurch Fitness Centre. Not the friendly kind that builds camaraderie, but the cold type that cuts like the Canterbury easterly wind. Too skinny. Bet he can't even lift the bar. What's this fella even doing here? These words weren't whispered. They were thrown at him, sharp, loud, meant to hurt. The gym's fluorescent lights seemed to grow harsher, highlighting every insecurity etched across Noah Lee's face. Noah had just moved to Christchurch from Dunedin 3 weeks ago. A quiet bloke with Asian heritage, he wasn't what people expected at the High Performance Centre, a competitive strength training facility where local rugby players and CrossFit enthusiasts came to build their physiques and their reputations. While others wore branded performance gear and posted their personal records online, Noah showed up in faded trackers, second-hand warehouse sneakers, and carried a notebook full of diagrams instead of a protein shaker. His slender frame looked out of place among the bulging muscles that surrounded him. He wasn't there to show off. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He was there to survive. You see, only a few months earlier, Noah had been driving back from university on the icy roads of Otago when a logging truck jackknifed across the highway. The collision left him with a shattered femur, 3 broken ribs, and doctors who spoke in hushed tones about his future. You might not walk properly again, Mr. Lee, they had told him at Dunedin Hospital, their voices kind but their prognosis brutal. You'll need to adjust your expectations. But Noah didn't adjust his expectations. He elevated them. When others might have surrendered to circumstance, Noah approached his recovery like an engineer tackles a problem, methodically, logically, relentlessly. His family had sacrificed too much for him to give up now. His father had worked double shifts at the takeaway shop in North East Valley for years to put him through his engineering degree. Giving up wasn't an option. So when Noah could finally stand without assistance, he decided he wouldn't just walk, he'd rise. The move to Christchurch wasn't just about a fresh start. It was about proving something to himself. The rehab facility there was better, and he'd secured an internship at a structural engineering firm in the city centre. Perfect timing, he thought. But nothing prepared him for the cruel welcome at the High Performance Centre. "Wrong place, mate," said one burly man with a Canterbury Crusaders gym towel draped around his neck. "Community rec centre's down the road." Noah just nodded politely and continued setting up his station for squats, starting with just the bar, no weights. That's when the sideways glances became outright mockery. Mocked by the regulars, dismissed by the trainers, who seemed to reserve their attention for those already strong, even ignored when he tried to join a group warm-up. The isolation was complete, but not unexpected. Noah had always been an outsider in some way. But Noah didn't fight back with words. Not a single retort left his lips. He stayed silent. Focused. Present. Every morning, he arrived at 5 a.m. sharp, before his internship started. Every evening, after most people had headed to the pub or home for dinner, he returned. And when the gym emptied at night, he stayed an extra hour, repeating form drills, recording progress in his notebook, studying biomechanics and muscle activation patterns. The titanium rod in his leg sometimes caught the light when he moved, a silent reminder of how far he'd come, and how far he still had to go. Weeks passed. The mockery continued, though it gradually lost its sting. Noah became part of the background noise of the gym, present but invisible. Just how he preferred it. The trainers still barely acknowledged him. The regulars had found newer targets for their banter. Noah kept to himself, earbuds in, eyes focused, moving through his carefully designed program with monastic discipline. Then one rainy Christchurch morning, a notice appeared on the gym's community board. Printed on bright yellow paper that demanded attention. Winter Warrior Challenge, a full-body strength circuit under timed conditions. Open to all members. See who's got the ticker to finish first. Saturday, 10 a.m. Prizes for winners. Noah stood reading the notice, his breath creating small clouds in the unheated entrance area. Behind him, a group of regular gym-goers discussed their strategies. "You entering, bro?" one called to Noah, more as a joke than a genuine question. Noah turned, his face expressionless, and simply nodded once. Laughter erupted from the group. "He's serious. This'll be a laugh." Noah didn't react. He simply took a photo of the challenge requirements with his phone and walked to his usual corner of the gym. That week, while continuing his normal routine, Noah spent his evenings at his small flat in Christchurch analyzing the challenge. Each movement. Each transition. The most efficient sequence. The optimal pacing strategy. His engineering mind breaking down the problem into solvable components. His flatmate Kahu, a NGI Tahu student studying sports medicine, found him one night surrounded by papers covered in diagrams. "You're taking this pretty seriously, eh?" Kahu asked, leaning against the doorframe. Noah looked up, the dark circles under his eyes visible. "I have to. Because of those Wallies at the gym." "Stuff mate. Not worth your time." Noah shook his head slowly. "It's not about them." "What is it about then?" Noah's hand unconsciously moved to his thigh, where the surgical scars mapped his journey. "About keeping a promise." "To who?" Kahu asked. Noah looked back down at his diagrams. "To myself." Saturday arrived cold and clear. The gym was busier than usual, with curious onlookers gathering to watch the challenge. The circuit was set up in the main area, battle ropes, kettlebells, barbells, pull-up bars, and more, forming a gauntlet of physical tests. 20 participants had signed up, mostly the regular crowd. Noah was the last name on the list, added with a question mark beside it by someone with a cruel sense of humor. "All right, listen up," called Max, the head trainer, a former provincial rugby player with a voice that needed no microphone. "Rules are simple. Complete the full circuit. Proper form counts. Skip a station or fail a movement, you out. Last one standing wins." The participants gathered, stretching and psyching themselves up. Noah stood slightly apart, eyes closed, breathing controlled, visualizing each movement in sequence. His worn grey tracksuit made him look even smaller among the colorful performance gear around him. "Hey, Skinny," called one of the regulars, a bearded guy in his 30s who'd never bothered to learn Noah's name. "Don't hurt yourself out there, yeah. We don't want to call an ambulance." Laughter rippled through the group. Noah opened his eyes, met the man's gaze briefly, then looked away, continuing his mental preparation. "All right, get ready," Max shouted. 3, 2, 1. Go. The challenge began with an explosion of energy. Participants sprinted to their first stations, already trying to outpace each other. Music blared from the gym speakers, Shapeshifter's heavy drum and bass pushing the intensity higher. But on the day of the challenge, something changed. Noah didn't rush. He didn't sprint. He moved with deliberate, measured steps to his first station. He didn't compete with others. He didn't even look at them. He moved like he'd rehearsed it 1,000 times, because he had. In his mind. In his flat. In the empty gym after hours. Perfect form. Relentless rhythm. Calm focus. While others grunted and shouted, Noah remained silent, his breathing controlled, his movements efficient. Nothing wasted. No energy spent on anything but the task at hand. 10 minutes in, the first participants began to falter. The explosive starts had drained their energy reserves. Form deteriorated. Movements became sloppy. "Jenkins, you're out," called Maximum Thompson. "That's not a proper burpee, you're done." One by one, the others dropped out. Some from exhaustion. Some from poor technique. Some simply giving up when they realized they couldn't win. The crowd, initially entertained by the display of strength, gradually focused their attention on the slender figure methodically moving through each station. Noah didn't falter. Didn't slow. Didn't break form. The titanium rod in his leg caught the light occasionally, a flash of metal visible through the thin fabric of his tracksuit when he performed squats. A woman in the crowd noticed, whispering to her friend, "What's that in his leg?" "Dunno. Maybe he's been injured." 30 minutes in, only 3 participants remained: Noah, the bearded man who had mocked him, and a CrossFit coach named Jess. The bearded man was slowing visibly, his face contorted with exhaustion. Jess maintained good form, but was breathing heavily, her movements becoming less explosive. Noah continued at exactly the same pace he'd started with. Each movement precise. Each transition smooth. His face showed concentration, but not strain. At the 40-minute mark, the bearded man stumbled during a kettlebell carry, dropping the weight with a loud clang. "That's you done, Dave," called Max. Dave didn't protest. He simply collapsed onto a nearby bench, chest heaving. 5 minutes later, Jess completed her final box jump, then shook her head. "I'm done," she gasped. "Can't keep up." And then there was one. Noah continued alone. The gym had fallen quiet, the music turned down. All eyes followed his methodical progress. He didn't speed up with victory in sight. He kept his pace, his focus, his form. And when the buzzer sounded, he wasn't just the last one standing. He had completed every rep, flawlessly. Silence fell across the gym. Noah stood in the center of the circuit, his breathing controlled, a thin sheen of sweat the only evidence of his exertion. He wasn't gasping for air. Wasn't collapsing in exhaustion. Wasn't raising his arms in triumph. Even the ones who had mocked him clapped. First one, then another, until the applause filled the space. Max approached, holding the prize, a gift voucher and protein supplements. That was impressive, he said, genuine respect in his voice. Where did you train before coming here? Noah looked at him, then at the prize, then around at the faces watching him. Dunedin Hospital, he said quietly. Rehabilitation ward. He pulled up his tracksuit leg slightly, revealing the surgical scars and titanium implant that ran along his thigh. The clapping stopped. Mutters of bloody hell, and far out rippled through the crowd. Max's expression shifted from admiration to something deeper. Car accident. Noah nodded once. And how long ago was that? 6 months. Dave, the bearded man who had mocked Noah, stood up from the bench, his face flushed with something beyond exertion. Mate, he began, but seemed unable to find the right words. Noah didn't wait for him to finish. He didn't smile. He didn't seek validation in their changed perceptions. He just nodded, picked up his notebook and water bottle, and walked toward the exit. Wait, called Maximum, your prize. Noah paused at the door, looked back at the group. Give it to someone who needs it, he said. Then added, almost as an afterthought, I just needed to know I could finish. With that, he pushed through the door into the crisp Christchurch morning, leaving behind a gym full of people reconsidering their definitions of strength. He didn't need their validation. He had already won, long before anyone noticed. The real victory wasn't outlasting the others. It was in each painful rehabilitation session. Each sleepless night. Each moment he chose to continue when giving up would have been easier. The following Monday, Noah arrived at the gym at his usual time, 5 a.m., before his internship. He expected things to return to normal. Expected to fade back into invisibility. Instead, he found Max waiting for him. Got a minute? The trainer asked. Noah nodded cautiously. Look, what you did on Saturday, that was something else, Max said, awkwardly shifting his weight. The way you approached it, your technique, it was perfect. Noah remained silent, waiting. Thing is, we've got some members here who could learn from that approach. Especially the rugby lads, all power, no technique. Max hesitated, then continued. Would you consider? Would you be up for helping out? Maybe a small group session once a week. We'd adjust your membership fees, of course. Noah looked surprised for the first time since he'd joined the gym. I'm not a trainer, he said simply. No, Max agreed. You're an engineer, right? That's what we need. Someone who understands structure, efficiency. The mechanics of movement. Noah considered this, his expression thoughtful. I'll think about it, he said finally. As he moved to his usual spot to begin his morning routine, he noticed something different. The sideways glances remained, but they'd transformed. No longer dismissive. Now curious. Respectful. Dave, the bearded man, approached awkwardly as Noah began his warm-up. Hey, Noah, right, he said. Noah nodded. Just wanted to say, well, you know. Dave struggled, rubbing his neck uncomfortably. Sorry about before. Being a bit of a dick and all that. Noah looked at him for a long moment, then did something unexpected. He smiled slightly. New day, he said, extending his hand. Dave took it, relief visible on his face. As Noah continued his routine that morning, something subtle had shifted, not just in how others saw him, but in how he saw himself. The gym was no longer a battleground to endure, but a space he had earned through quiet persistence. The titanium in his leg caught the light again, as he moved through his squats, no longer a reminder of limitation, but of transformation. He wasn't strong because he lifted weight. He was strong because he carried himself when no one else did. And in that strength, found in silence and perseverance rather than noise and display, was a power greater than any could see from the outside. A power built not in victory, but in survival. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If this story moved you or made you reflect, we ask just one small thing. Like the video. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And subscribe to our channel if this story meant something to you. That way, you help us grow and create more videos like this to bring real emotion to those who need it most. With heartfelt thanks from the author, Luca Macan.